It's House of the Dragon time. House of the Dragon time. House of the Dragon time. And I almost knocked my monster over. Are we ready? I'm super sick. Alright guys, first and foremost, can I apologize for having to put that video up from my work? If you've been over here for a minute, I just want to thank all my subscribers. I just want to thank the Penguin Gang real quick. I'm just really sorry that I did that and you guys and subjected you guys to that video. And it's sick. It's disgusting what they do to people there. And I think people have a right to know. And I think people there have a right to know they're not the only ones dealing with it. Because I know I'm not the only one. But thank you, UAW, for fucking up my House of the Dragon week. On top of me puking. I was puking all over my balcony. And all of a sudden, this bitch has the audacity to text me. Oh, do you want your help getting your job back? No, I don't. No, I don't. I'm sorry that you guys fired me over going to bury my uncle who raised me, you pieces of shit. I'm like, haven't you done enough damage to my life? Like, why can't you just stop? So, I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. I'm so sorry this is late. All I wanted was to talk about House of the Dragon. Let's get into it. I did love the way they opened with the Great Council of 101, and I loved having Rhaenys, the queen who never was, do the monologue over it, because, like I've been saying in my other videos, she could have done the same thing. She had a claim, and they passed her over because she didn't have a wiener. And it's like, she could have been a great ruler. So I do like the way they're handling her character and the way that she's moving, especially in this first episode. And one thing I will give this episode a lot of credit for, this is just not Abby is a freak about Westeros. This did a great job of setting up, of knowing exactly who we are, who the characters are as people. Corlys Velaryon, I told you guys, he's going to be the heart of this show. He's like a cool, swaggery, more cool version of Ned Stark, where Ned was going, it doesn't matter if about whose heir is what. Stannis is the rightful heir if Joffrey isn't Robert. Corlys is the one going, it doesn't matter if we don't like Daemon. He's the rightful heir if we're going to keep passing up these ladies. Like, shut up and deal with it. And he's the only one who's like, okay, so we know exactly where he stands. Like I said, he's like a cooler version of Ned Stark. He's the one who's going to do the right thing no matter what. Daemon, killing the game. Like I said, he's going to be the funnest character to watch. Is he the nicest guy? No. Is he a great character? Yes. He's like Bronn, but if Bronn was born into a royal family, and he's great. I have my book out, just so you guys know I'm not a dum-dum. I've read Fire and Blood. I've read all of it. I know these books are subjective. So the book people that have read these, we all have our own opinions about these characters, where I keep saying I hate the Tyrells, and I do. I don't like Alicent Hightower, book version. I don't like Otto Hightower, dirty, sneaky rat. We see what's going on there. That's the hand of the king, and we can tell he's a dirty, sneaky rat. I still have 100-degree fever. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But King Viserys, I always thought he was a goober. And I do like the way they're depicting him as a goober. He's a goober who trusts everyone around him, and he shouldn't. And that's why it's like, no, Daemon's not the greatest, but he's not wrong when he says these things. He's not wrong when he's like, dude, dirty, sneaky rats are all around you. The only characters that we didn't really, like, we know them, you know what I mean? Like Alicent Hightower and Rhaenyra, but there's going to be a time jump where they get older. So we're going to see their character change a little bit. But everybody else, we know exactly how they are and who they are as people, and they set that up very well. I loved that the commoners we're so used to dragons that we don't even look up when they fly by. But that opening shot of Syrax and Rhaenyra coming in, so cool. Syraxes, why are they calling him Caraxes? Have we all been wrong? I'm not going to call him Caraxes. God, that really bugged me. Was anybody else bothered by that? I thought it was Syraxes. But whatever. Anyway, Daemon's dragon wearing full Valyrian armor. Sick. The dragons look great. But my only thing is, I felt like Jurassic Park, that scene where he's like, there are going to be dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right? And I'm like, there are going to be dragons in your dragon show, right? Because we saw 2. And we saw them for not very long. But that opening shot was great, and they look great. And I'm assuming of course we're going to see more. But I'm like, I wish we would have had a little bit more of that. And I'm assuming this is going to be a part of it. But like the way they were putting down the fact that like Rhaenyra was out riding her dragon, and he's like, oh, you smell of dragon. And it's almost like, remember when Olenna Tyrell tells Daenerys, are you a sheep? No, you're a dragon. Be a dragon. And that's the whole thing here, is like the only 2 people that aren't denying what they are or forgetting what they are Daemon and Rhaenyra. They are dragon riders. They are speaking High Valyrian, and the way they used that was fantastic. And nobody can deny this. This show is beautiful. This show is gorgeous. This show is absolute. Like, if you remember, like, I'm not knocking Game of Thrones the first couple seasons because they're great, but that didn't have a lot of funding, and it's still beautiful. But this is like, whoa, gorgeous. Ramin Djawadi is one of my favorite composers right now. He's up there. I love him, and it could get overplayed with how much they're using the original theme. But the way they're using it, but mixing in their own thing and mixing in the Daenerys theme type music is so perfectly done. I cannot speak more highly of it. I'm just going to get a few things out there before we get into like the actual episode, but the way the Iron Throne is depicted. The Iron Throne is depicted in the books as high up in the air so that when it's supposed to be intimidating. So when you go in, you are looking up, and the only thing you can see are the souls of whoever's sitting on its feet. That's why so many people have died on the Iron Throne. Literally, it's killed them. And we'll get into that a little bit, because I think that's what they're saying. Now, the myth around the Iron Throne that has killed people, like Maegor the Cruel, is that the Iron Throne thought they weren't worthy to rule, and so it killed them. Now, there's probably other things that went into that, like maybe you shouldn't have been doing X, Y, and Z, like especially with Maegor the Cruel, and maybe somebody just shoved you into it, but that was like a myth around it. But I do think there's some shifty stuff going on with Viserys right now, King Viserys, and the Iron Throne, saying he isn't worthy. Now, the symbolism in this first episode was so well done with, okay, when she lands with Syrax in the dragon pit, if you remember what Daenerys says to Jon Snow, we locked them in here, and we became small. And that's what happened. Now, if you know Targaryen history, I'm not going to give anything away. We're going to stick to the episode. Some stuff goes down in the dragon pit. So when she lands with Syrax, and then the guy who works there is like, come on, Syrax, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot going on there to foreshadow what will go on later in the dragon pit. Being back and seeing the Red Keep was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I almost cried. I was getting the chills. Now, here's where things get all crazy. Is not all crazy, but personally, how I always took Alicent Hightower, and we'll see more because this is only the first episode, is that she's more like Marjorie Tyrell. And I feel like they're making her a bit more sympathetic, which is fine. There are some people that have always thought that. Like I said, the way that Fire and Blood is wrote and the way that A World of Ice and Fire is wrote is like a historian wrote it. Like a character in the series wrote it. And history is wrote by the winners. So all of the fandom has different takes on these characters. I always thought King Viserys was a goober who trusted everybody around him, and that's kind of how they're depicting him. I always thought that Alicent Hightower was a dirty snake rat. I always thought her dad, who's hand to the king, is a dirty snake rat. But they're making Alicent Hightower a little more sympathetic as she's younger. That scene where she's laying on her lap, I'm like, oh, okay, so are you saying, like, is this a bisexual thing? Is this a romantic thing? Because that could make it even more interesting that not just my friend down the line does some messed up stuff, but somebody that I had romantic feelings towards does some messed up stuff towards me, which could make it thematically much more interesting, and I like that. Now, I loved the pregnant mom, and all that, and I thought they did a really good job of making us feel for her. I mean, obviously, but one of the things that was kind of off to me was like when she kind of tells Rhaenyra, this is the only way we can add to the realm, because that's not true. Like, just historically with Targaryens, that's not true. But it also does foreshadow things. And like I said, I'm not trying to give anything away outside this episode, but Targaryens have issues in the birthing bed because of incest life. Daenerys' mom died giving birth to her. Daenerys, her kid was all messed up and was a stillbirth. It's a common thing with Targaryens having issues having children, especially when it's super incesty. Now, that's just facts. Not only how gruesome and how rough that is when we're cutting you up to have a baby come out, but they don't ask her. They ask the king. And they go, do you want her to live or do you want him to live? And guess what? Neither one do. But I liked that they didn't shy away from how gruesome that is, because if you're going to show people getting killed and you're going to show sex and things like that, you should show that. And they didn't shy away from it. And I give you a lot of credit. And I liked that. I didn't like it, you know what I mean? But I was like, oh, you're really going to go there. You're really going to show that. And it was super heartbreaking when she's like, Viserys, please don't do this to me. Like, she could have lived. She could have lived. And if you heard what she said, she was like, you see how many problems we had having kids? Like, this might be a problem. And then instead of saying just save her, he's like, nope, save them both. And look what happened. But I liked that they didn't shy away from how rough that is. Like I said, if you're going to show people banging and you're going to show everything else, show that. And you did. But I also liked how, and I bring that up because we get the scene prior to that of Rhaenyra talking to her mom and saying, nobody else is worried about you. Because her mom's like, stop worrying, stop worrying. She's like, I have to worry because nobody else worries about you but me. They all worry about this kid. And yeah, I'm excited for you to have the baby, but I want my mom, you know? And I thought that was really, really sweet. And I liked that. Corlys is great. I loved all the small council scenes, and there's so many Easter eggs for book readers that I really, really loved. But Corlys is great. Like I said, they show him being the only one going like, no, this is how it is, and this is how things are going to go, and deal with it, and I'm an honorable man. Now, I'll put the link down below where I talk about why I don't trust the Hightowers and why I don't trust Maesters. And if you notice, Maesters, if anybody knows how to heal you, they know how to kill you. Who are the Maesters all talking to and running around with? The Hand of the King, Otto Hightower. Where are the Hightowers from? Old Town. Where's Old Town? That's where the Maesters train and learn. So who do you think they're going to listen to? Who do you think they have more allegiance to? I'll leave the video down below. Even later in the episode, we hear Otto Hightower, the Hand of the King, say, get this to Old Town. And it's like, okay, what are you saying to Old Town? Sneaky stuff. Also, was there problems with that birth? Or did the Maesters that were the ones birthing that child have something to do with it? Wonder. Here's where we get to something that just personally bothers me. Thematically on screen it works, making Rhaenyra a cupbearer to her dad at the small council meetings, which is still a big deal. That's a big deal to have her there. But I personally always took it as King Viserys wanted Rhaenyra there. Not as a cupbearer, and was like, no, my daughter is here. I want her to rule one day, and she's going to learn, not just be a cupbearer. And I always really, in my head, loved that this father-daughter relationship was so good. But we learned very quickly that is not the case. Him and her do not have this relationship that I thought that in my own headcanon that they had. Now on screen it worked. It's fine. But it just disappointed me because I was like, oh wow, we're going to see this father-daughter relationship be good, and it's not. I just wish they would have emphasized that more, but like I said, I understand adaptations and I understand having to change things, so it didn't bother me that much, but I was like, man, we're not going to get Viserys really being like, no, I'm pushing for my daughter to rule, and that's a good thing, and she's going to learn, and instead they're just like, no, you're a cupbearer here? Okay, whatever. I have so many notes about Maesters being rats, it's so funny. That's also where we get the line of, oh, and you smell like a dragon? And then, like I said, everybody who's denying there's a dragon, so I don't understand why riding the dragon is bad. I'm like, oh yeah, because you guys are all kind of denying what you are and forgetting what you are. Not the Night's Watch. Daemon created the City Watch, and they kind of made it seem like they did. And I'm like, wait, didn't Daemon? I could be totally wrong, but I thought Daemon did. But the City Watch is essentially like the cops. And I can't wait for that. I hope they give him this nickname because a lot of people call him Lord Fleabottom. Now, Fleabottom is like the ghetto of King's Landing, and that's where like the whorehouses are, or brothels are, that's where the bars are, that's where all this stuff is. Now they don't like that because Daemon is loved by the common people because he hangs out with the common people and he's around them. And that's why I loved that back and forth between him and Otto Hightower when he's like, maybe if you left the Red Keep every once in a while, you would know. That's also why the crowd goes nutso for him in the tournament because they love him. Daemon isn't the nicest guy. No, he's not. But he does know how the common people live. And that scene of them slaughtering all the bad people, it was rough, but it made sense. And that's why Corlys is like, do I agree with it? Maybe not. But is Daemon wrong? No, he's not wrong. And he did the right thing. You guys remember in the first season of Game of Thrones when they're like, we're going to have the hands tourney and all that. And I liked that. In this, we have the tournament for the heir. And Daemon's joking and going, well, I'm the heir. So yeah. But the symbolism during that tourney, while having the queen giving birth and losing the baby, is so well done. Like, the symbolism there alone is so well done. And we'll get there, but I want to talk about this. My favorite scene in this entire thing was when Rhaenyra goes walking into the throne room and Daemon is sitting on the Iron Throne, and the Kingsguard's like, oh my God. And she's like, chill, it's fine. Now, this is where I first was like, okay, is this going to be like, because that's her uncle. So when he gives her if you listen to them talk, one, I like that they are, just like how they're the only ones whose dragons we've seen, because that's what I mean. I'm not hating on that we didn't see more dragons, but I'm like, we only see Daemon's dragon, and we only see Rhaenyra's dragon. We only see Daemon and Rhaenyra speaking High Valyrian, so I don't know if every Targaryen speaks that still, or do they just speak it? Because he makes a comment to her when he gives her the Valyrian steel necklace and says, now we both have a piece of our heritage. So it's like, these two are the only ones not forgetting where they came from. But I loved that back and forth of them talking about the tourney and all that, and I really liked it a lot. And when he gave her the necklace, at first I was like, ooh, this is little. I mean, like I said, it's Incest City. The Targaryens are all banging each other. It's fine. Like, apparently that's fine to everybody, but everyone else was going nutso about a biracial family. God forbid we have a black man marrying a white woman having a biracial family, but Incest City is totally cool to everybody. But anyway, outside of that, at first I thought it was coming off like, are you grooming her for using her down the line? Until we got to later in the episode, and I almost felt like he was like, no, I need to protect her. And if me and her get together, we can form a really strong alliance, and it could help her keep everything, you know what I mean? And me keep everything. It's not just, I'm not saying that he's going out of his way because he's Mr. Nice Guy. I'm just saying at first I was like, ooh, it's a little groomy. And then I was like, oh, wait. Later on, it almost looks like he's like, no, I don't want this power to be taken from... The same thing with him defending his brother. I don't want this power to be taken from us. And so maybe if I get with her, we will be more protected. But that whole back and forth in High Valyrian in the throne room was my favorite scene in the entire show. Now, if you go over to Movie Lovers Unite, me and John did a review just tonight about what was going on with the king. And we start finding out that he has, not only do they show him on the Iron Throne holding it when he's getting cuts on his hands. And then we have the scene of the Maesters. He don't know what sickness he has. He don't know what's on his back. And they're telling him whatever they want. And there's Hightower telling them whatever they want. So we don't know what this is. We don't know this thing on his back. And they're like, oh, it could be stress. It could be this. It could be that. And he literally says, it's just a nick from being on the Iron Throne. John was saying, are they doing something to the Iron Throne to make him sick if he gets cut? Or what? And I was like, oh, that's a really good take. That's a possibility. But like I've been saying, there's always been like myths and legends about if a king isn't worthy, the Iron Throne will take them out itself. So I thought that was really interesting. When we get the bath scene and King Viserys is talking to his wife about, oh, dragons like heat, yada, 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 and she's talking about all the problems, I thought it was very interesting, and I like this, that he says, I had a dream, blah, blah. Now, Targaryens have been known to have prophecy dreams. The Aegon one pissed me off. We'll get to that, because I don't think that's a thing, and that's not accurate, but whatever. I thought Rhaegar was the one who had the prophecy of the long night, but whatevs. We'll get to that. Anyway, he brings up, and the bells rang, and my son was put on the throne, and all the dragons roared. The bells normally don't mean nothing good, if we remember back. The bells with Daenerys sacking King's Landing, the Battle of the Bells is the only time Robert Baratheon lost a battle, and Varys has a quote with Tyrion before the Battle of Blackwater. He's like, the bells always mean something terrible is happening, a death, this, that, and then Tyrion says a wedding, and he's like, exactly. So it's like the bells they make it seem like a celebratory thing, but they're not, and so it's like, oh, we know something bad's going to happen here, but that's just a little nugget that I really like. There's a ton of those in this that I really liked. Whoa. I did like when we cut to Daemon in the brothel, and obviously this specific prostitute and him are tight, and she knows him, obviously, very well. And that was another part of me that was like, okay, you guys remember if you watch my other videos, I talk all about this, about how he blatantly has a lover. Down the line, Rhaenyra and Daemon do get together. I'm not giving anything away with that. But Rhaenyra always had a guy on the side, and Daemon has a lady on the side. And that kind of added to my, like, oh, Daemon's thinking ahead, like, this will protect her, blah, 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 even though they're both doing their own separate thing. And, yeah, anyway. I like that you can tell this woman knows him very well, and he confides in her. So we get to the tournament. Now this is what I mean about the symbolism, and I really loved this a lot. Not only was this beautiful, and Daemon's armor was sick. I was living for it. But we have all the lords and ladies up in their little box, and we have the tournament going, and we have Daemon show up. Now this is the heir's tourney. It's supposed to be celebrating the heir that is being born, right? And the king says, my wife's going into labor, right? Okay. So we have the wife going into labor, and we have Daemon, who is the heir as of right now, going into the lists. Prior to Daemon jousting, and I loved that, and John was talking about that, the stunt work was so cool, and showing like how violent jousting really is was really cool and really well done. But if you notice when they were asking for the ladies' favors, there was a lot more that went into that than just being like, oh, I'm being nice. The Baratheons asked for Rhaenys, the queen who never was. They asked for her favor because she's half Baratheon. And to me that said, always remember, like, we got your back. But what I loved even more was when Daemon, just to stick it to Otto Hightower, goes up and asks for Alicent Hightower's. So, and then he looks at Otto like, yeah, I just took your daughter's favor. Like, they're doing something saying that. And then Sir Criston Cole goes up and asks for Rhaenyra's to be like, to Daemon. And I like that. And that all is politically motivated. And I thought that was interesting. And if you're a weirdo like me who loves this, it was really cool. So now we have Daemon going up to joust. Can we just talk about him coming out and doing that badass stare down versus everybody? That was sick. When he came out and was just staring everybody down, like, sick. And I like that his brother was like kind of giggling and like, he's like, I know how my brother is and this is funny and he's a badass and watch him win. So that was sick. I loved that. But we're cutting back and forth between this terrible labor and of the heir and the heir right now jousting in this fight. Then we start, I loved the way they did the panic with the royals when things start to go sideways with the birth. But not only that, we have that going on, and then we have Daemon being unseated, which is a huge foreshadow of what's about to happen to this family as a whole in this entire series. So we have Viserys in the birthing room going, oh snap, with this problem, with this heir and his wife, and we have the tournament going on, and them losing and falling, and that heir falling. You get what I'm saying there? And then, like I said, when they pull Viserys aside and go, you have to make the choice. And then that acting by the woman who played the queen, I'm sorry that I don't know your name, that was heartbreaking. That was so heartbreaking. It really was. And like I said, who's to say these maesters didn't set this up? I'm just putting that out there. Viserys chooses to kill his wife, save the baby. They both die. But one thing I do love is not only do I love the Queen Who Never Was and Corlys Velaryon's relationship, it's one of the only healthy marriages documented in Westeros history, but the actors have such great chemistry. And you can tell that Rhaenys, and I love when she has her little back and forth with them when she's like, they don't know nothing. Because she's been around for a minute. She was around for Maegor the Cruel. She was around for all this stuff. She's been around for a minute watching her family do stuff. So she knows how to play the Game of Thrones probably better than anybody. And you can tell, like, even her just looking over at her husband and him looking at her, that they already know what the deal is. But when they all start to panic and start leaving the box because they know something's up, I really like the way they handled that. Now, I'm a huge fan of unconventional weapons, and now Dark Sister's my favorite. That's the weapon that's the sword that I have. Well, I have it. My mom found this at a garage sale years ago, and it's dragon wings, but then it is, and I use this when I do my Visenya cosplay, which I haven't got to wear yet because the first time I bought it, I ended up in ICU. But my favorite weapon in all of Game of Thrones is Robert Baratheon's Warhammer. Now, Sir Criston Cole isn't my favorite person. That's the guy who was fighting with Daemon. He uses a Morning Star, which is like a mace, but with all the spikes in it. And he's very proficient with that. So get ready for some really cool choreography with that. And I thought that was a really cool scene. They show the funeral of the baby and the wife, which is super sad. Excuse me. I think I'm overheating. It was really sad, but once again, it showed that Viserys isn't even acknowledging his daughter or that she's going through loss and stuff like that. But that's where you kind of see the only, like, sympathy in Daemon is when I think that's when it really hits Daemon. Like, shit might hit the fan, and he's looking at Rhaenyra like, I might have to start plotting even more because this might be a problem. But when he makes her go out and do the funeral, and her uncle are speaking in High Valyrian, and he's like, he needs you now. He needs you now, because Daemon knows his brother is weak. And you can call him being a dick, or you could call it being, I've had to be tough my whole life because he's weak. So like I said, at first in the throne room, I was like, is this a little groomy? Maybe. Is it a little plotty? Maybe. But then at the funeral part is when I was like, no, I think Daemon's realizing our bloodline is going to lose if I don't protect Rhaenyra in whatever way. Then, who's the one to call the small council meeting all types of quick when this king is grieving and unprepared? Otto Hightower. Sneaky dirty rat, right? Now, here's a great Easter egg. They were comparing Daemon to Maegor the Cruel. Maegor the Cruel is the king who built the Red Keep. He's the one who had all the secret passageways built and then killed everybody who worked on them so that nobody would know their secrets. And then where do they show Daemon after comparing him to that king? Hiding in the walls, listening in. I loved that, and that was sick. But Otto keeps pushing the succession, who's going to take the throne, this, that, and the other thing. And he's like, I'm grieving. I'm not going to pick between my daughter and my brother. Shut up. Leave me alone right now. Daemon's listening in the background, and Corlys Velaryon's the only one who's like, shut up. And then they start trying to check him on what? Because your wife this? And he's like, yeah, because of that. And I loved that Corlys stepped up and defended his wife. And that's what I mean. I love their relationship. Then we get the scene between Otto Hightower and his daughter, Alicent, the dark-haired girl who's best buds with Rhaenyra. Did anybody else get, like, your dad's a creep to you vibes? Or, like, she's very used to maybe older men having their way with her? Because a lot of people feel that way. And not that way, but that she was pushed by her dad to do this. And they were showing that in the show. And if that's the way they're going to go, that's cool, that's fine. But personally, I never took it that way. I always took it as like, she's more like Marjorie Tyrell and she wanted to do that. But it does make it more compelling on screen if it's like that. But it was almost like she already knew, like, she even says that she's like in his chambers. Like, she knows what that means. And they do state in books and stuff, and from the information we already have, that it starts out very innocent. And it starts out with her reading to him, and it starts out with her talking to him. But then it moves into, eventually she marries the king and starts cranking out kids with him. That's where the entire conflict comes in. Now, my thing is, by making her and Rhaenyra so tight, I'm wondering where they're going to go with that, because I'm like, yes, you might be used to a certain kind of lifestyle as a highborn, but I wasn't a teenage girl that long ago, and guess what? You and your BFF would talk, and you'd probably be like, yeah, somebody would slip up somewhere and go, or not even slip up, unless there's like a direct scene where this dad is like, do not say a damn thing to Rhaenyra, because I definitely think that Otto Hightower is using his daughter to spy on both the king and Rhaenyra, because he asks her, he says, how's Rhaenyra feeling? And she's like, she lost her mom. Then he's like, yeah, go talk to the king and be weird and make sure you dress as your mom, and it's creepy and weird. And that's what makes me think, was your dad being weird to you too? Because he's telling you to dress up like your mom, like that's a thing that you're used to. And it's like, of course I'm going to feel bad for that character and have sympathy for her. It's just in my own headcanon prior to this. So outside of the show part, I'm like, I still don't like the Hightowers. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm just like, eventually, I'm pretty sure you tell your best friend, like, either my dad's making me do this, or I don't want to do this, or something along those lines of like, this is weird, unless you have an ulterior motive also. Either way, I don't want it to come off like I'm saying like, oh no, this is totally okay what this dad is making this daughter do. It's not. I'm just saying, realistically, I'm curious to see how they're going to handle that, because either you would just totally avoid your friend after that, because how do you say that? Oh, I've been hanging out with your dad? That's weird. And I will say this, I think that she genuinely meant it when she told King Viserys, I wish somebody would have just told me when my mom passed away that they were sorry and they felt bad, so I'm sorry that you lost your wife, and that's really sad. And then that's when the king's like, oh, yeah, man, still weird. But either way, I get it. Then we have the scene of Daemon at the brothel and the bar, and I thought, now, other people are having other feelings about this. Now, I didn't feel that way. I felt like his words were kind of taken out of context, and he wasn't really saying like, yeah, they're gone. I'm not saying that he's sad that I'm not saying he's sad that he's no longer, that he's still in line for the throne, but I don't think he was going like, yeah, great, your heir died, your wife's dead. That's not how it was. And that woman put him up to speaking. So it's like, that felt like a bit of a setup to me. And then when they told the king about it, it felt like even more of a setup. And that's why I loved that scene between him and his brother. And he's like, he's a cunt. And I loved that. That was great. When he was like, you need to be protected from yourself. You believe everybody around you. Stop it. Like, Daemon's not wrong. And I'm not saying that Daemon's the greatest. I'm just saying I do think that was taken out of context. I don't think he was celebrating. Even if you watch the scene, like, you can, it's almost like he's in his own little world and he's sad. And it's like muffled a little bit, the sound. And then he's like, he comes to when they're like, oh yeah, talk, Prince of the City, yeah, blah. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he does. But I don't think he was going like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And it was made to seem that way to the king. And look, they got him out of the city, didn't they? They got their way, didn't they? And I mean, calling him heir for a day isn't wrong. And it's not like he said like something worse, but it's kind of true. And he's the only one who's honest with his brother. I think you want him around. It's think of your other siblings. You want to protect them. Even if they're mad at you, you want to protect them. I also love, not only is this costuming beautiful, but him and Rhaenyra are Daemon and Rhaenyra are the only ones always in red and black. Viserys is, but not as bright of red, but Daemon is always in a brighter red, like, I know who I am, and I'm not going to run away from that. When King Viserys and Rhaenyra have their talk in front of Balerian's skull, which was a really beautifully shot scene, when he says we can't control them, that's not entirely true about dragons, but that's a whole other conversation that I don't feel like getting into. Are they it's almost like warging, but not. I don't know how to describe it right now, but, and like I said, I have 102-degree fever or something. It could be worse, and I'm just rambling. This might not make any sense, but they do kind of they have a huge bond with their dragons. And like I said, it's almost like Viserys, the king, is turning away from dragons and stuff, and Rhaenyra and Daemon are like, no, that's what we are. But I did like that back and forth, and I like that she says we're just like everybody else without them. But yeah, I did. I like that back and forth, but it's almost like I'm accepting that I am this Targaryen, I am a dragon, and your father does not. Then we get to the scene of him officially naming his heir as Then we get to the scene of him naming Rhaenyra as his official heir, and all the lords pledging themselves to her. Who do they make a point to show? Corlys, a Baratheon, who would be Corlys's wife's family, and who's one of the dirty, sneaky rats who speaks up? Somebody from Old Town, whose allegiance would be to the High Towers. So I wonder whose side they're going to end up on. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, because like I said, normally I'm on top of things, but if my union wasn't harassing me, or my ex-union, and I wasn't sick as hell, Rhaegar is always the one that I thought had the prophecy of, we need to bring ice and fire together to defeat a common enemy. Not Aegon the Conqueror, right? Right? Because Aegon the Conqueror and the Targaryens were already having, like, trade and stuff with Westeros. Aegon and his sisters were just like, we could take this over. And they did. And I just didn't feel like they needed to put that in there. I don't know. There was just some things where I was like, you didn't need to put this in here. And then, like, the comparisons to Daenerys so much. I don't think you had to put in there. But either way, as a show, I thought they did a very good job with this. It's beautiful. I really liked it. I loved the setup. And like I said, I can nitpick things as a book lover, but other than that, as a show, it's fantastic. It's great. I'm loving it so far, but it's one episode. So I'm real geeked, and I'm sorry that I'm so late, but I'm going to do another video. I'm going to go get some Pedialyte and some Vernors, and then we're going to do another video about, like, favorite things, like, from the books and stuff that we loved. And yeah, but as a whole, I really liked this. I thought they did a really good job setting it up, and I don't think people know, like, this isn't just, I'm seeing a lot of comments online that are like, everything's just a cash grab, so shut up. But this is all stuff that, if you ask any book reader, this is all stuff that we know because it is a thing. This wasn't made up for TV. Like, these are stories and characters that we all knew about. And people are like, huh? What? And I'm like, no, these things have been established. Like, there's a whole history. And like I said, I don't think this is a good place to start, because I already told my mom, I was like, what do you think happens to the dragons? You're about to find out. But, yeah, I'm Abby with More City Nerds. Like, share, subscribe, comment, Penguin Gang. I'm on OF. I'm on Instagram. I'm on all the stuff. It's down below. Oh, and I'll put all my stuff down below about why you shouldn't trust Maesters. And there was a lot of sneaky Maester stuff happening. And I don't know, a bunch of other stuff, because I'm redoing my playlists. I'm trying to clean up the channel and make it easier for people to navigate. But yeah, I really liked this so far. I still don't know if this was a great place to start, but Daemon's great. I don't know. What was your favorite part of the episode? I really liked it, and I think they did a good job of setting it up. There's just a few things that I was like, whatever. And like I said, I have 100-degree fever, so I might be rambling. But either way, like, share, subscribe, comment. I really appreciate it. Go check out the review me and John did, and we will be reviewing every episode every Monday over on his channel at 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock? Shoot, I don't know. I'm Abby, More City Nerds. Check it out. Yeah. Caraxes in the all Valyrian armor. Oh my god, did I say that enough? Did I bring that up? We had a dragon wearing armor. That's all I want. That's all I wanted. That's all I've ever wanted in my life. So how can I be upset? And going back to Westeros was so fun.